Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 10 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. It's going to be a rough day for me because today is a double recording day because I did not record an episode yesterday. Now, I've watched the movies, I've done the work, but I just haven't recorded the podcast, which is a dangerous trend to get involved with because it will lead you to say, well, I've watched 4 movies, I just need to make time to record 4 episodes. And before you know it, now the episodes are becoming intimidating. Like the movies are once intimidating, and you're not doing anything. This is the challenge of this self-imposed punishment that I've laid upon my own shoulders. In any case, we're here. This is episode 10. We're going to talk about movie number 10, A Fireman for Christmas. But before we do, of course, we're going to send a shout-out to the series sponsor, Third Eye Comics. Whether you need comics, graphic novels, role-playing game equipment, board games, anything for your tabletop games, you can go to them. If you want some vinyl, you want some movies, check out their music and movie store in Annapolis. You can find all 3 types of stores right in there at heart of Annapolis. You can also find them throughout the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, whether it's College Park, whether it's Richmond and Virginia, anywhere else. Not anywhere else, but a finite number of anywheres. But if you don't happen to live in this area, but you do want to support them because they are supporting me, feel free to go to shop.thirdeyecomics.com, pick up something for yourself. Hopefully you'll love it, but I know what you will love regardless of that. The cops are coming to shut this down because this information is too true. But I know while you may or may not love the item that you purchase, you will love the experience of shopping with Third Eye Comics at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. Let's get on with the movie. Today's movie is A Fireman for Christmas. And I knew within about 6 minutes that this was the perfect movie for this podcast. It lifted my spirits. It made me excited. It made me wish I could instantly download the movie into my brain and then regurgitate it for you, because it is everything I hope for when I'm watching these movies. Granted, look, I've watched some fun things. I've watched some things that were less than good. This is perfect because it is, and I apologize to anybody who worked on this movie, who may or may not hear this at some point in the future. This movie is dog shit. It is terrible. It is made on a shoestring budget. It is made by people who do not know the way movies tend to work, or at least have trouble getting them to look like other movies. The story is nonsensical. The acting is bewildering. It is everything that I've hoped for in this journey because it brought me a lot of fun times watching this movie. It was a bit muted because it was like there's nobody to turn around and go, did you see this? We just spent 2 minutes on the opening montage of like the credits. Did you see this? They did the audio replacement so that you could hear them talk better, but it didn't match the mouths. Did you see this? We just watched somebody walk down the entire hallway of a hospital for no good reason. These are the things that you just have to accept that you're the only one that's going to watch them. But if you want to watch this movie, if you want to watch a genuinely poor movie, you can find A Fireman for Christmas on Tubi, and I'm sure other free-to-watch platforms, because this is definitely the kind of movie that they pushed everywhere they can. The opening credits, as I mentioned, go on for 2 minutes, and as I put in my notes, they look really bad, almost as if I made them. And I can make some things that look really cool. I can also make some things that don't look so cool, but they satisfy my needs. This was neither of those. We open in the kitchen where 2 women plan the seating chart for a wedding. And they're talking about how, you can't sit Uncle Owen next to Samantha. And that's fine, but it was just, the acting was, it was so challenged here. These women are Kathy and Danielle. Danielle is our main character for the movie. and Kathy is her best friend. She's the one that's getting married. They talk about the wedding. They're talking about the wedding makes Danielle sad because it was a year ago, that Christmas, that she was dumped. And this comes up a few times in the movie. She was basically dumped by her boyfriend at the time at a midnight mass type situation on Christmas Eve. And she carries it with her very heavily. Understandably. It's understandable, Diane. I know that you're doing your best. I'm looking at my notes and I'm getting excited. So they're talking in the kitchen. And they're planning the seating chart for a wedding. A task that takes a good amount of time. Where should Uncle Owen sit? Where should Samantha sit? We can't sit them together. They're taking their time getting through this process. And then they go in the other room, the living room, and they sit in chairs that are side by side with a little end table between them. And what is on that end table but a plate of cookies? That's fine. They might just sit out cookies for the holidays. On either side of the fucking plate of cookies are 2 cups of cocoa or coffee or something. Something that's supposed to be hot because it's in a mug. And they just immediately start drinking it. How long were they sitting there? Who put them there? Did they pre-decorate the seat? They're like, okay, look, let's put out the hot coffee and we'll put out some cookies. But then let's go back in the kitchen for a good 25 minutes to plan this wedding seating chart. And then we'll go back out and enjoy our now cold beverages. That moment right there is when I knew this movie was special. Danielle talks about how all the Christmas ornaments are bringing back bad memories from her breakup. They decide to toast to a perfect guy being out there for Danielle and then toast using mugs that... Oh, this is when I noticed the mugs were already there. They sat down. We cut to a guy walking a Dalmatian. This is Trevor. He's our secondary main character. He's going to be the love interest for Danielle. So we watch him walking his dog for 10 seconds, and then we cut back to the women. Why did we show him for 10 seconds? He did not do anything. He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't even talk to the dog. He literally... They cut him walking his dog for 10 seconds, and then we're back to the 2 women. They're talking about Danielle's mom recently having had surgery and how they're hoping that she recovers okay, and she's just doing as best as you can after a surgery. Kathy then says, I have something I want to do, but I don't think you'll want to do it. I hope you're up for it. Danielle says, I'm up for it. What do you want to do? And then we cut to them outside walking in the snow. That's what Kathy wanted to do. Also, it really does seem like there's some really bad green screen going on with them walking outside in the snow. As they walk, Danielle decides that she wants some coffee, and then she basically disinvites Kathy from the rest of the walk. She goes, you know what? I'm going to go get some coffee. And Kathy says something along the lines of, I'll go with you if you want. Just no, I'm okay. I'm just going to go get the coffee. Okay, well, I'll wait here. No, I think I just need some time by myself. Kathy, take the hint. She goes to a coffee shop owned by a woman named Deb. Deb is pregnant, heavily pregnant. She's due just after New Year's. She also owns a bakery, but it's not in the same location. It's a different location. Maybe it's like Third Eye Comics, where they have different stores in different areas. And she says that the woman that she has currently running the bakery, because she needs help, because she's pregnant, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I would think if it's a different location, you would need help no matter what. But she says because she's pregnant, she has a woman running the bakery who has a very, as she puts it, European vibe. What does that mean? Well, she's going to eventually talk with a weird mix of accents, like a cartoon character. We'll get to it. Eventually, Danielle leaves with her coffee and makes her way to a bench in the park. An old lady sits next to her and just stares at her. Is she an extra? What's her deal? And ultimately, she does have a single line in the movie, but she has to be somebody's mom or grandmother, because she's just sitting there and she's just staring at Danielle the way that an actor would not stare at another actor. She's just staring at her. Then the guy with the Dalmatian walks up. His dog, the guy didn't realize it, but the dog drinks from Danielle's coffee. She is super pissed about this. Oh, the other thing is Deb's coffee shop literally closed moments after she left. So she can't go back and get another one. That is a cause of consternation for Danielle. But she is so unnecessarily, in my opinion, pissed about this. She yells at the guy. The guy apologizes and gets the dog to back off the coffee. Danielle says, what do you think, I'm still going to want the coffee now after your mutt has gotten into it? And the guy clarifies, Trevor clarifies that it's actually a purebred Dalmatian. The old lady is still there just watching this all. He offers to buy her a replacement, but then that's when he finds out that Deb's coffee shop is closed for the night. He then offers to get her a coffee at a gas station, but Danielle points out that it won't be as good as the coffee that she had, and she's going to have to take a rain check on gas station coffee. And she says it in an incredible way. And with that, my friends, Danielle storms off. The old lady finally talks and said, she really blew you off. You need to work on your game. Over to Kathy and Danielle. It's the next day. They're chatting about the night before. And she says the worst part was the dog owner apparently thinks they all live in frat houses and live on dirty mattresses because he offered to buy her coffee from a gas station. Kathy puts her hand on her chest like she's never heard anything so ridiculous. Danielle says, handsome people think they can do anything they want. Kathy picks up on this. Ooh, handsome. Yet Danielle says, no, I didn't mean it that way. I want nothing to do with him. Then Kathy's fiancé walks in. His name is Matt, and Kathy treats him terribly. This movie, at least in regards to this character of Matt, is built on the belief that men are stupid and immature and they can't be trusted to handle things. And they have poor taste. Because Matt is constantly mocked, constantly told to shut up. In fact, in this very scene, when he comes up and he says what I'm about to tell you, he says, Kathy says, mute Matt, mute. Haha, I like the sound of that. Mute Matt. And then they use that, mute Matt, throughout the rest of the movie whenever he appears and does something just inexplicably dumb. It's so cringy because it's built off the back of like beliefs that just aren't common. And so you see these people in their little corner of the world talking to each other and thinking like, yeah, that's the way men are. Men are fucking stupid. Let's do this. Yeah, men can't be trusted to do anything. Let's do this. Anyway, he unwrapped whatever gift it was. I forget what it was. Say it was a mixer or it was something in a relatively smaller box. And she goes, turns out it's one of the wedding gifts that he's unwrapped. And she goes, why'd you unwrap a wedding gift? It's not even their wedding yet, you know? And he says, I thought it was an Xbox. And there's no chance in this world that anybody would think that this small box was an Xbox, nor could it be nearly heavy enough to be an Xbox. But then Kathy says, who would buy an adult an Xbox for their wedding? And it's like, oh, okay, Kathy, I don't think that's the problem here. She turns back to Danielle and asks if she is planning on meeting the Dalmatian man again. How could she? How could she know how to meet this Dalmatian man again? How? They met totally by chance on a bench in the park. What would she do? How would she meet him again? Are you planning on meeting that guy again? Anyway, despite this improbability, Danielle says, I don't think he seems like the kind of guy I want to spend any time with. Kathy then wants Danielle, talking about the wedding, wants Danielle to meet up with the best man so they can plan some of the parts of the wedding and help prepare things. She has a whole list of things that need to get done, and she's going to put it on the shoulders of the best man and Kath and Danielle, who is the maid of honor. Will she have time to meet with TJ, as she calls him, the next day? She sure will. Back to the coffee shop, Danielle orders her standard coffee again, but the Dalmatian guy, Trevor, shows up out of nowhere and offers to buy her coffee for her after what happened the night before. I guess it was, at this point, like 2 nights before. She reluctantly agrees. And actually, I made it too simple. She says no, he says please. She says no, he says please. He pays for it. She says okay. We then fade out and back in just a moment. But we fade out and back to them standing in the exact same place. So I'm wondering, what did they have to cut out of the movie? We find out the Dalmatian's name is Drop after Stop, Drop, and Roll. There's 3 dogs at the firehouse. Oh, this is a fireman's dog, hence the name of the movie, A Fireman for Christmas. I should have explained that in a better way. Trevor tries to get Danielle to hang out for a bit at the coffee shop, but she says, I'm here to meet someone. I'm sorry, I don't have time to hang out. We all know, the audience knows that Trevor is the best man here. But this movie goes through all of these motions just to have Danielle finally figure it out. Where he says, oh, really? You're meeting somebody here? Who are you meeting? What's going on? And she explains all of this. And the whole time, the audience, and I think Trevor, know that it's him that she's supposed to be meeting. She takes a sip of her coffee after this exchange. And he laughs and says, it's cute how you sip your coffee. Who says that to a stranger? You've only met this person twice. Who says that? They finally get to work on a list of things that they need for the wedding. We find out Trevor's a fireman, hence the Dalmatian. They're going through the list of things that Kathy and Matt need. And one of the things she wants is a real Christmas tree, but it has to be one where they can put candles on there like in the old days. And Trevor has to be like, well, I'm a fireman, and that's not good because we're going to buy the tree like days ahead of time, and it's going to be really dry, and we put a candle on that, the sucker's going to light up. And she is like, oh, what are you talking about? They did it in the old days. And he says, yeah, because they didn't have rules like that in the old days. They move on to the playlist for the reception. They bicker about which sort of music should be used. Trevor is Matt's best man, and he's advocating for stuff for Matt. But then Danielle says Trevor needs to realize this is not Matt's wedding. Matt does not matter. This is not said as a joke, at least not an obvious joke. This is said as a warning to Trevor. Cut to Danielle updating Kathy on how awful Trevor was. This cuts back and forth with Trevor telling Matt they're at his house or whatever playing a video game because they're immature men. This cuts back and forth with Trevor telling Matt about how awful Kathy was, and they keep interspersing so that the character finishes a version of the sentence the previous character set up. I can't tell you how much of a jerk she was. You know what I'm saying? Neither Matt nor Kelly offer any feedback in this scene at all. Cut to Deb's bakery where Trevor and Danielle are wedding cake testing. This is where we see the European vibes woman. She's being portrayed like a clown. Like every line is supposed to be hilarious in some weird, unknowable accent. It's something else. It's also not funny at all. When the woman goes to get the samples for them, Trevor points out that this woman grew up here in Michigan. I guess this movie takes place in Michigan. Danielle says, well, where did that accent come from? And he says, I don't know. We jump to after the tasting. They had a surprisingly good time. They're immediately becoming best buds. They head out for the rest of their chores. We get a chore montage. We see them stopping in an antique store. Inside, Trevor tries on a hat. There's a piano. He plays a few notes. He tries on a second hat. They have a ball. This takes a pretty good chunk of the movie's time, and it's all set to music, so there's no dialogue whatsoever. Next is a florist, where there's still no dialogue. Then there's lastly at a cafe where they drink wine. Afterward, they both think that the day has been great, but there's one more thing Danielle has planned. It's a carriage ride. It's a surprise for Kathy from Danielle and Kathy's mom. But in order to make sure it works, they got to do this test ride in the carriage. So it's Trevor and Danielle taking a carriage ride. We then get a carriage ride montage. This movie is flying by, I wrote. The montage is interrupted so they could talk for a bit on the carriage. We find out that Danielle has a relationship blog that's blowing up. Trevor talks about how he became a fireman, how his dad and uncles were all firemen, so he just sort of fell into it. Danielle wonders, is there something you're not telling me? He says, what do you mean? You seem a little too perfect. There has to be a deep, dark secret. This is only their third time meeting. They make eyes at each other as we go back to the carriage montage. We watch them leave the carriage and walk a genuine half block, all in silence while the music plays in the background. And this is something this movie does quite a few times. We watch them get out of the carriage, then it's like clipped up of them playing with a horse, and then we watch them just walk down a city block. Just walk, and then it's over. Why did we watch that? So the movie could be longer. Trevor drops Danielle off at her house. She's actually from out of town, but she's staying in town for the holidays and the wedding at her parents'. This only comes up when her parents make an appearance later. They stand at the door and talk for a little bit when a little girl who happens to be Danielle's niece pops open the door and says, are you going to smooch? And I thought, chick, that is my line. I'm the one that calls it smooching. The niece says the two of them are in love and says Trevor won't want to meet Danielle's dad because he owns, quote, this is what the little girl says, this is what the 9-year-old girl says, he won't want to meet Danielle's dad because he has, quote, lots of guns. We get Kathy and Danielle catching up on various wedding tasks, but that segues quickly into Kathy wanting the scoop on Trevor. Isn't he perfect? Danielle says he pretty much is. Kathy says, what are you waiting for? And I'm like, chick, they've met 3 times. It's still the same number of times. What do you mean, what are you waiting for? They're going to see each other again. What do you mean? What is she waiting for? Danielle then says, well, meeting my dad is going to be the next hurdle. Apparently, part of the issue is Danielle's dad spent 30 years in the military, and he's never liked any of Danielle's boyfriends. We cut to Danielle and Trevor. She wants him to meet her parents. She's preparing him. She says, what's your handshake like? And the fact that any of this actually matters is obviously ridiculous. We cut to her parents chatting. Danielle's mom doesn't want her dad scaring Trevor before he gets to the front door. He said, who said anything about him coming through the front door? That's my front door. And then the wife would correct him and say, that's our front door. And he keeps doing this throughout his existence in this movie. This is my house. Honey, this is our house. Fine, this is our house, but you're not coming in. That kind of a thing. He is a complete jerk. If she brings in... I forgot that this was in the movie. So the dad, talking to Danielle's mom, says if she brings in another one of those anti-American, soft-bellied, I'm not going to eat the Christmas ham because them as a vegetarian, and they're going to try and lecture me, I immediately knew what I was watching when I saw that scene. When Danielle and Trevor arrive, they have an entire conversation before even going through the front door. And that's because this movie has now made it a big deal that he may or may not let them in the front door. So then they have to have a conversation at the front door, which would be weird in any circumstance. But it's not supposed to be weird to anybody because then if it was weird to them, they'd be like, well, why aren't I coming inside? We haven't gotten that far yet. The mom even takes Trevor's coat while they're standing in the front doorway. Eventually, he impresses the dad enough with his handshake and his respectfulness and the fact that he's, I guess, a fireman. I don't remember exactly what. But they let him come inside, and then the dad can't stop peppering him with questions. Ultimately, though, the dad likes him. They go down to check out the dad's man cave. And then the mom makes a face. Danielle worries, but her mom is just assures her, no, the face I made is just because I just had a little bit of pain. And this is something that happens all the time when there's a surgery. Next, we get a double date montage with Matt and Kathy, and Danielle and Trevor. They go ice skating. Trevor is not great at ice skating, neither is Kathy. We cut to Trevor giving Danielle a tour of his firehouse and showing off the different pieces of equipment and the different people that work there. And this is incredible. We watch him show off things and trucks for over 3 minutes. Now, this has audio. So he goes, do you know what this is? He goes, oh, that's the fire trucks. Yes, but this is actually the hose truck because it has the hose. And he pulls out a piece of equipment from the cab. This is an oxygen tank, but we call it whatever they call it. Over here, do you know what this truck is? This is the ladder truck. Over here we have, and this goes on for 3 minutes of the movie. Eventually the tour ends at one of the trucks, and they chat about how much fun it's been to hang out with one another. He even asks her to some Christmas Eve church thing. She's not sure about going, though, because it was a year ago at a similar event that she was dumped. He totally understands. He's totally cool with this and thinks, that dude must have been crazy. Back over at Danielle's mom and dad's, her mom collapses. The dad calls 911. Back at the firehouse, they get the call, but they don't realize who it's for. Trevor and his team have to go, leaving Danielle by herself with the Dalmatians. We see Trevor and team administer first aid and then call for additional help. Cut to Kathy. Danielle calls and tells her mom is in the hospital. At the hospital, we find out Danielle's mom is completely fine. There was nothing bad. She was just dehydrated. We watched Danielle and her dad walk the entire length of the hallway in the hospital with no audio. I mean, there's audio, but you can't hear it. You just hear the muffled talk like, no, she's going to be totally fine. No, she's fine, honey. She's fine. No. As they're walking a very long way down this hallway, we get a whole lot of Danielle feeling guilty about not being there when her mom passed out. Somehow this turns into her thinking it's too soon for her to get into a relationship. None of this makes any sense, but it's what the movie feels like it has to do. Her mom thinks she just needs to embrace a relationship with Trevor. Heck, even your dad likes him. We cut from there to Danielle updating Kathy on her wedding tasks. Everything looks good with 48 hours to spare. Then Kathy leaves, so Danielle starts doing work for her regular job that she's doing remotely while she's visiting everybody for the holidays and the wedding. But then she gets a phone call. It's from Deb's husband. Deb's gone into labor 2 weeks early. Deb from the bakery/cafe. They need Danielle's help with finishing cupcakes for the wedding reception. The scene is supposed to be funny, and basically what happens in it is the husband, who is treated like an incompetent man, he's on the phone saying, Danielle, we need your help. Deb's gone into labor 2 weeks early. And Danielle says, she can't have gone into labor 2 weeks early. And he says, I don't know what to tell you, but we need your help with the cupcakes. Then there's the matter of how many cupcakes, and the woman says, Deb says that they need to be 200 cupcakes, and then the husband, for whatever reason, translates that into dozens and partial dozens, like say 16 and a half dozens or 16 and 3/4, and then Danielle doesn't understand it, so we get this triangle of conversation. Eventually, he tries to put Deb, who is, I should clarify, she's in labor. There is a person at her feet ready to deliver this baby while this is going on. Danielle, on the phone, listens in on the entire birth because she's trying to get information about these cupcakes. When, in theory, it could wait 10 minutes and then she would get more information. All she needs to know is that she's going to be needed to help. Regardless, they have to make 200 cupcakes for the reception. She immediately texts someone, and this is who she texts. It's Trevor. I don't need to be mysterious. She texts Trevor, get here now, 911 ASAP emergency, help. Cut to Trevor at the door. He's ready to help. Now, I would think that would be a bit alarming to see. Oh my God, get here now, 911 emergency. They head to the bakery and start working on the cupcakes using Deb's recipe. Wait, why isn't the European Vibes woman here? Why isn't she the one doing this work? We'll never get an answer to that. We get a baking montage. This movie has it all. Eventually, they have all the cupcakes they need. There's a knock at the door at the bakery, and Trevor answers the door, even though the bakery is closed. There's no reason for him to answer it. And it's his ex-girlfriend. This woman starts, oh, hello, Trevor. How are you doing? Very, very sensual towards him. And she says the guys at the station told her where he was. This woman is also a cartoon character. For all I know, it could be the same woman who is the European Vibes bakery lady. She says she's not wearing... So he says, why aren't you wearing a coat? It's cold out. And she says, I'm not going to wear a coat and ruin this cute outfit. Danielle walks up and asks who she is. She says, I'm Becky, Trevor's girlfriend. Trevor doesn't say anything. He doesn't explain it. He doesn't offer any type of explanation. He just stands there and lets this woman explain that she's his girlfriend. We cut to Danielle telling Kathy about the whole ordeal. Kathy says, I can swear that they broke up. She even moved away to Chicago. Danielle seems shockingly okay with this mystery. Well, if you say they broke up, that is weird, though, because she did say that she was his girlfriend last night when I saw her in person. But then Trevor calls, and she sends it to voicemail, and then he calls again, and she sends it to voicemail, and we find out he's already called like 10 times. But she doesn't want to talk to him, even though she seems sort of understanding about this weird situation. We see Trevor leaving her a message. He wants to explain about last night. Please give me a call. Please call me back. Now over to Danielle at her home by herself, ranting to no one about this whole thing again. We see her walking outside. She comes across a short, stocky man in a red cap and a red flannel shirt who is a stand-in for Santa Claus, make no mistake. He offers to listen to her plight. She says, you look like that guy. And he understands that she means, oh, do you mean the big guy? I get that a lot. She's not sure what to do about this whole Trevor thing. They talk forever and achieve nothing. He says a whole bunch of mumbo-jumbo like, well, life never gives you the gifts you want, but it gives you the gifts you can use. Now, I made that up, but that is an equivalent of what was in this movie. Basically, it boils down to him saying that she should give up on her dreams. She should not give up on her dreams. You never know what a day may bring. Back at home, where she chats with her mom, we find out even her dad is taking this breakup hard because of how much he liked Trevor. This scene also accomplishes nothing, because it just basically covers the same ground that the scene with the fake Santa Claus does. Danielle even references talking to Street Santa. I talked to the Street Santa over at the park. And her mom goes, we don't have a Street Santa in town. How the hell would you know if there's a single person who's dressed up like Santa Claus? Also, she did say he was Santa Claus, so I guess she would imagine him dressed up like Santa Claus, but he wasn't. He was just dressed up in clothes that were red. And the fact that she says, we don't have a Street Santa in town, that's supposed to imply that there's some sort of magic going on, that it was a magical Santa Claus. Maybe it was the real Santa Claus. Trevor arrives at the house, and he's pleading at the door for 60 seconds with Danielle, and her mom and dad will not let him in. Eventually, he convinces him to just let him in just for a minute. He just needs a moment to explain. And he says, see, I never had a chance to talk to you about Becky. We dated for 7 months, and at that point, I wasn't really feeling it. Then she left for a job in Chicago, and I figured it was all over. We stopped talking. Then she just showed up. And the thing is, I didn't even have time to talk to her before she arrived. I had to tell her that we went for a walk after that, and I told her, I said, I don't really have feelings for you anymore, because I've never felt the way I do about you, Danielle. Eventually they kiss, and the parents jump out and wish them a Merry Christmas as if it's a weird surprise party. We watch them on a walk outside. They eventually wish each other Merry Christmas and then kiss again. The end. A Fireman for Christmas. One of the worst. It's amazing. MVP of this movie is going to be... I'm going to go with Trevor, because he seemed the most naturalistic of all the actors who were trying really hard to hit certain notes here and there. That just not to say that his performance was incredible, and I really don't. I would feel so bad if anybody ever heard me talking this much shit. But he seemed the most naturalistic of the actors in this motion picture. And that's it. So that's it for episode 10. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a good day. I'll be talking to you again shortly in episode 11 because I have to record it right now. But that's for a problem for later. In the meantime, in between time, enjoy some Jingle Bells. Take care.